Welcome to the Board of Public Utilities Board of Directors meeting for regular session meeting for October 18th, 2023. I'd like to welcome everyone here who's in person, those who are viewing online or listening online. Just a reminder to all that this session is being recorded by audio and video. As always, there will be a public comment section this evening. If you are in the room, please sign up on the sheet over here by Ms. May. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature on the app. If you wish to speak, please do provide your name and address when called on. And please do direct your comments to the board only. You will have a maximum of 5 minutes to speak to the board. And a reminder that all comments you make are made public. So we caution any visitor not to disclose any confidential account information, nor any account information about an account that is not in your name. Staff is unable to provide individual account information or a history in an open meeting for confidentiality reasons. Members of the public may also call or email BPU with questions or concerns. Tonight's agenda and presentations may be found on the BPU website on the board meetings tab. If you're using Zoom, they will appear on your screen. So reminder, this is a business meeting of the Board of Directors, and we will conduct the meeting accordingly. The following rules apply to this meeting. Every person in this room will act respectfully toward one another. Personal attacks and accusations toward any person will not be tolerated. Please state your specific issue or question to the board only. Attendees shall refrain from side discussions or individual commentary that interfere with speakers or other attendees at this meeting. If side discussions are necessary, we would ask that you please take them outside of this boardroom. If any of the above rules are breached during this meeting, the individual who breaches those rules is subject to removal from the boardroom. I am Rose Mulvaney Henry. I'm member at large, position 3, and I'm the current board president. Other members of our board and staff include Bill Johnson, the general manager. David Haley, member at large, position 2. Tom Groneman, second district, and current board vice president. Mr. Jeff Bryant, 3rd district. And Miss Angela Lawson, our acting chief counsel. I would remind everybody to please put your phones on silent. A reminder that there are mics throughout the room. They are sensitive. They can pick up and record anything that is said. Before we begin our meeting, I'd ask that you please rise and join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Angela, may I get a roll call, please?
Roll call. Mylan. I'll come back. Mulvaney Henry.
Here.
Bryant.
Here.
Gonzalez. Groneman.
Here.
Haley.
Present.
Mylan. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda, I'll ask if there are any corrections or edits that need to be made. Hearing none.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mylan. Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Bryant.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the work session of October 4th, 2023, I will ask if there are any corrections or edits that need to be made. Hearing none.
Move to approve as submitted. Second.
Motion to approve the minutes of the work session of October 4th, 2023 has been.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you. Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mylan. Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Bryant.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular session of October 4th, 2023, are there any corrections or edits that need to be made? Hearing none.
Move to approve as submitted. Second.
Motion to approve the minutes of the regular session of October 4th, 2023 has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mylan. Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Brenneman,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, turn the meeting over to you.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Under public comments, we do have one visitor signed up here at the utility to speak tonight, Sister Teresa Bangert. If you can come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And I do have a handout that I was reading through before I asked you to step up. So you can state your name and address for the record and then 5 minutes to address the board.
And if there's a timekeeper, I'd ask him to let me know 30 seconds so that I can end. I
Okay.
believe in time limits.
Okay.
So Sister Teresa Spangert, 8301 Wood Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas, 66112. And I put it on my paper that I gave you. Board Chair Mulvaney Henry, Mr. Johnson, and all BPU board members. I consider this to be a letter not just for myself, but for the total community. I know others have had similar experiences. I heard another one right before I came tonight from a staff member at Duchesne Clinic. My Sister of Charity community moved this summer from 424 North 15th Street to 8301 Wood Avenue. Because of this move, I have had several interactions with BPU. As you know, since there is no longer an opportunity to meet in person with someone, all this is done via the phone or online. I started early asking BPU to move the 4 solar panels that have been connected to 424 to the account on Wood. That was in April. Carlos Quejas, I might have said his name wrong, was most helpful. However, I found it strange that again, there was no opportunity to come into BPU's office to sign the needed forms, thus Carlos came to our home. I contacted BPU in June to report the termination of service for us at 424. They told me that I could not set up the termination until the beginning of July. Since the account was not in the name of the Sisters of Charity, but under the name of St. Peter's Cathedral, I suggested to the staff at St. Peter's that it may be simpler for them to call BPU and have the account switched over to their billing. And though that staff person told me that she had explained the transfer, BPU terminated the automatic withdrawal before our August 1st cutoff. Thus, I received a disconnect notice on August 7th, basically because the automatic withdrawal had not happened on July 31st. So I call, wait through the constant repetition of the options again, and wait for someone to answer and get this figured out and our bill paid. I admit that BPU got my automatic withdrawal from our new account set up without incident. But the final thing that prompted this message was my attempt to cease the paper billing from BPU. I went online and it kept telling me that my email could not be used. With 2 unhelpful emails from customer service, I requested with these bolded words that someone call me. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to work with BPU to do the simplest things? I am not brilliant, but I am of average intelligence and English is my first language. I request assistance that is not in the email form. Peace be with you and me, Sister Teresa. I got a call. BPU had not taken my email off the 424 account. In requesting paperless billing, it was not letting me use that email. The staff person who called me cleared that up, and my paperless billing hopefully is now in place. However, since beginning preparing these remarks, I again had an email shutoff notice on the St. Peter's account. So apparently my email is not off that account. All the time I was jumping through all these hoops, I kept thinking of all the persons in our KCK community who are refugees and immigrants, and thus have a first language that is not English. I think of those who do not have access to a computer or telephone, How do they get their utilities set up? How do they switch residences and get their accounts updated? What about persons who have employment does not allow them hour breaks to contact BPU? Again, I consider this to be a letter not just for myself, but for the total community. Why has BPU not brought staff back to in-person service after COVID? Who made that decision and why? BPU is a very important service, vital service in this community.
That's 30 seconds.
What is more honorable than providing light and warmth? I am confident that accurate, helpful communication can be established between BPU and those they serve. Then I just would like to end saying that my experience at BPU over the 26 years in the community has not been this, but I haven't changed residences. And yearly, I've been at the meeting where BPU presents to the Wyandotte County delegation in Topeka. That's where I learned about the solar panel field. That's where I learned that 49% of the renewable energy, of your energy, comes from renewables. And for this sister of charity who believes Pope Francis's urgency of caring for our common home, it puts a smile in my spirit. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Sister Therese. Hang on one second. Bill, I don't know if David, did you have any comments?
I want to thank Sister Therese Bangert for her advocacy, not only on behalf of a particular issue, but also she's very well known throughout not only this area, but also out of Topeka, where I certainly want to share with the board and with Mr. Johnson, everyone, that her advocacy is usually well beyond one particular, as outlined, instance here. And I thank you for being here today and sharing this. And then to say by way of comment, it is my prayer that we will find some means within the utility to return to some sort of in-customer or in-person customer through a lobby, perhaps abbreviated. You've detailed one of what are many examples by those who don't have English as a first language or who don't have the ability to interact by computer or telephone. And there's nothing that can take the place, seemingly, of a face-to-face, especially bilingual ability. And I appreciate your being here today. Let me share with Mr. Johnson and with the board. I had nothing to do with the sister's testimony whatsoever, but all I can say to it, as one who wants to see lobby customer service returned, is amen.
And I'm now since I moved, I'm now your constituent again.
Oh, boy. Thank you.
Everything.
Did you want to go, Bill? Or
Well, I was waiting on any other board member before I spoke.
Tom, did you have anything?
I'm good.
Jeff?
The only thing I would say, Sister Teresa, it was nice to formally meet. And it was very timely because today we began the, I don't want to say arduous, but the task of reviewing and refining our customer service policies. And these are the kind of things that we need to keep in mind as we're working on those. So thank you for bringing this to us.
Sister Therese, as always, thank you for, shining a light on, some of the issues that BPU has, that we have in conducting business with our public. And you're certainly not the only one that has shown a light on that this year. This is a repetitive theme that, and to Jeff's point, we are undertaking at this point, an overhaul of the customer service policies. And we have to certainly take your testimony tonight into account, as well as some of the previous customers we've had before you. So thank you for bringing it to the board. Bill?
I would just echo same things that you heard from the board. Thank you for coming here. This is well prepared, well put together. Certainly appreciate it. I'm reading things here that I certainly didn't know about. I know you contacted the board through our website. I'm also copied on that, so, you know, when I see things there, I immediately forward that to staff. So that we can try to at least take some type of action as the customers reach out to our board, okay? There's actually more here than what was reported there, so wasn't fully prepared to deal with all of this, and even in the email that I sent back to you saying I'm looking into it. I think your response was you would maybe making a presence here, so I really didn't get a chance to fully go through my formal investigation of what took place, which kind of puts me at in a tough position because I'm hearing about something at the last minute, don't have time to really act on it. And there's been very limited conversation between you and I, so I will take this back and we will take a look at it. And I do have questions myself that I had already started asking staff about some of the process procedures we have in place. And why are there some hangups in certain things that I'm still questioning that's still there, okay? So I will follow back up with you myself too. Thank you. There's nobody else signed up here. Rick, is there anyone online? All right, thank you. So moving on down the agenda, next topic is there is a resolution prepared. Dennis, if you want to step up for any questions. There is a resolution that's been prepared for you. And I know this has gone through the policy committee. I think it's gone through the work session and now it's here and we'll request board take action on resolution 5290. If there's any questions, either Dennis or I will try to address those.
Do we want to read the resolution? Do you want to read the rest?
Would you like me to?
Please.
The entire resolution or just what it does?
I think just what it does.
Yes, this resolution 5290 would amend the personnel code to the amendments that the board has already discussed and made their changes to those amendments. So it would adopt that effective immediately, except when an action or event occurred prior to this date, the old code would apply to prior action. So this would be moved for all new occurrences moving forward once adopted.
Any board discussion?
I move
Questions?
to approve resolution number 5290.
Second.
There's a motion to approve resolution number 5290. It's been seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mylan. Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Bryant.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam President, I do want to also make another statement. I know that there are 2 or 3 other things I need to follow back up with the full board on some customer inquiries that where people have contacted you. It's on my list of things to do. I just didn't want to you to thinking that I'm having to work my way through some of that. I just need to turn around some type of communication to the board, and I'll do that still. Next thing on the agenda. So as part of our rate case, the board asked staff to take a look at our utility rebate program. Andrew, are you here? And then we had put together a proposal, and then I think there was further conversation on what can we do beyond that. So I know staff has worked on it. I'm assuming it's you. It's not, or is it Lori?
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew's here to kind of go over a presentation that was sent to you in advance and
Thank you.
so, and he's here to answer any questions about what it is we can do, and then here's some recommendations on that we want to send back to the board for your consideration. Andrew.
Yeah, good evening and thanks for having me. I just want to spend a few minutes discussing the current BPU low income rebate program, as well as other programs and potential programs. As you know, we recently initiated a BPU low-income rebate program with the initial set of rebates actually beginning to hit this month. The current program is based on the Unified Government's Utility Rebate Program and is set to run through May 2024 and will provide a rebate to each of those 479 residential households that were awarded funds based on that program. Each of those households with electric and water service will receive a total of $67.50, and each electric-only customer will receive a total of $45 in rebates. Next slide, update you. As we look forward, the goal is to determine the most efficient and effective use of the limited funds available. One potential option would be to stand up our own internal program by utilizing outside agency information such as LEAP. The LEAP program is administered at the state level and open to all households that are at or below 150% of the federal poverty level. We have had discussions with LEAP staff regarding the ability to pull this information, but that dialogue is ongoing. At this point, we are not certain as to whether they will be able to provide that information, but we are also exploring the LEAP information for another program as well. And so we will continue that dialogue going forward. This future program that we hope to implement is still being discussed and is still at the federal level today. And so we continue to wait to see what comes of that. But if we are able to access this information, we would expect relatively limited administration costs and could see upwards of 20,000 eligible households.
Andrew, can I stop you for a second? I know discussions are early on with the LEAP folks. Is there a reason why they think they wouldn't be able to share the data?
So they haven't shared it in the past. So
Mhm.
the mechanism we have today, right, is that at times they provide funds to the utility, and therefore we could use those as a source of saying, hey, these people would be eligible, but those would be eligible based on the previous cycle, right, the previous year, and would only be eligible to those individuals that chose putting money towards their electric bill versus their gas bill, for example. You opt one way or the other is kind of, or you can opt to share, depending on how you do it. So one of the things that we're looking at is it's really part of the Solar for All program. That's an EPA grant funding program that we've been working on, is that the EPA is proposing that entities such as LEAP provide an API, essentially an exchange of data that they can share with utilities, so that we, instead of standing up our own program and going through all the effort, is it says, here is a dump of eligible applicants for your program. Again, I'm speaking of the Solar for All, but it would work very much the same for this program, and say, hey, now we can take that data in and say, hey, these are the eligible people who did apply. I can put you under that program. And so they're still working through that angle. They haven't done it in the past. And so they're working still to see how would that work? What would I be able to share, and those type of things. So that dialogue will continue because, again, we're working on other programs with LEAP staff today. And so we'll continue to have that dialogue as those programs move forward. So we don't know for certain. I guess I'd be hopeful, but with no certainty in that. So.
Are we too early in that process to determine whether or not our systems would be compatible with any API they'd be looking at?
We are.
Okay.
We are. Yep.
Okay.
Nothing at this
Thank
point.
you.
This program, however, would be slightly more restrictive on the majority of households with seniors and disabled than would the Unified Government's new rebate program that they're looking at implementing in the first quarter of 2024. Just keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Staff also explored standing up our own BPU-specific verification program and perform the verification either internally or through an administrative agency. But we found that likely to be really exorbitantly expensive based on the rates that we currently pay different staff to do those activities, and the type of program, the potential number of applications, and just the labor involved in that verification process. Generally, I would expect utilizing state or municipal agencies already spending dollars on these processes would be substantially more efficient and ensure a far higher percentage of the funds actually getting directed to those in need versus getting eaten up in administrative burden. Next slide, please. Another option is the utilization of the unified government's new low-income elderly or disabled utility rebate program. So as far as rebate programs go, staff would likely recommend that program. Again, our relationship to the unified government, our ability to get our information on those unified government's information list makes it much easier to translate that from the unified government to our own systems, kind of like what we're speaking with the LEAP in terms of how well that translates. But under the new unified government's program, it would significantly expand the number of eligible households that it could serve from the current program to this new one. And it could be as many as 15,000 eligible households. This would require no to limited additional labor or administration costs as we work with the UG to capture the necessary data at the point of verification. Under this program, it is eligible to those households that have an individual in the household that is 65 years old or older, or has a disability and has a BPU account. The current income limit for the individual, not the household, is $37,750. And that is with Social Security and SSI benefits only being recorded at 50%. Under any of these rebate programs, staff does recommend a cap of $150,000. Next slide, please. I did also want to point out the numerous other programs that are available to provide assistance or weatherization, and we really encourage all customers to explore these programs. The BPU already has utility assistance and hardship assistance that's on our budget today. There's additional agency assistance. We already spoke about LEAP, which is 150% of the federal poverty level. KWAP does weatherization here at the state level, and that's 200% of the federal poverty level. In addition, there's the Unified Government Low Income Senior or Disabled Rebate Program, again, which they're modifying in the first quarter of 2024. There's state programs such as the Homestead Act. And then there's also funds that we see coming out of the IRA here coming likely in the first quarter of 2024. Next slide, please. So as part of the IRA, we expect to see direct-to-consumer point-of-sale rebates likely coming in the first quarter of 2024. The state has yet to release the exact specifics, but these funds will be tied to electrification, energy efficiency, and weatherization. Today, we'll focus on what we expect for those households at or below 80% of the area median income, which I reflected there on the bottom of the screen. As those households will be eligible for up to 100% point of sale funding for numerous categories. There are also point of sale rebates for those households that fall in between 80% and 150% of the federal poverty AMI as well. But those are generally up to 50% point of sale rebates. There are also tax credits associated with many of these activities, and those tax credits are actually available today in 2023. Next slide, please. Those households at or below 80% of the area median income are expected to be able to receive up to $14,000 in point of sale rebates across the various classifications. So weatherization activities, up to 100% of those costs are covered, up to $1,600. Heat pumps, up to 100% of those costs are covered, up to $8,000. Electric panels, up to 100%, up to $4,000. Electric wiring, up to $2,500. Heat pump water heater, up to 100% cost, up to $1,750. The electric or induction stove, up to 100% of cost, up to $840. The heat pump clothes dryer, up to 100% of cost, up to $840. And the efficiency rebate, up to 80% of costs, up to $8,000. So there's tons of money out there. Again, these are point of sale rebates direct to consumer.
Andrew, hang on a second.
Yes.
Okay, so on this, your understanding is consumers could stack these up to $14,000 per household.
That's correct.
Okay, and so let's go to the heat pump for a second, okay? So direct funding straight to the consumer. We also have a heat pump program. Can they stack that? consumer stack that? Will we also give them money toward that?
As long as we budget for it and we continue to do it the way we've done it in the past,
Mhm.
yes, they could receive funding from BPU for those services.
Okay, thank you.
And so these values are really based on the guidelines provided by the Inflation Reduction Act. We are still waiting to see exactly what the state decides. So the state's who's going to actually push down. So some of these numbers could change somewhat, but these are really directed from the federal level, and we'll see exactly what the state does.
The total amount won't, the 14,000,
It-
that'll stay
It should
firm.
remain.
Okay.
It should remain.
Go ahead, David.
I should report to, and thank you, Madam President. The request was made last meeting that I find out why the state did not make application for additional weatherization from the federal. I've not gotten an answer. I've spoken with administration, who else, purchasing and the utilities. And to date, I told them I needed it, an email by today at 2 o'clock. I don't have it. So I don't know the answer to that question. I'm continuing to ask it. I don't know if you're aware at this point what weatherization or additional weatherization federal funding might do to help with what we're able to offer now up to the 14,000 if we were, or what that amount might be. If you don't, no problem.
are-
They don't know what's happening out at Topeka either, so.
So the only thing I got from the Topeka side on the additional weatherization funds is that they did not have the staff and they lost one of their, I'll say large, off-takers of the program. And so therefore they didn't think they had the bandwidth to handle the additional work that was associated with that. That's what I've heard. Again, I'm as distant as you are on any of these things.
Well,
We
you've got
were
more of an
disappointed.
answer than I have. You've got more of an answer back so far. I'm continuing to ask, so that.
We obviously were disappointed that they didn't go after those additional funds. Again, these funds here really have the ability to dwarf any other funding mechanism that any of our consumers have, because 80% of the area median income will really encompass the vast majority of our residential customers. And then 150% of the area median income will essentially encompass almost every residential customer in the city. And so there are a lot of money out there for both electrification, energy efficiency, those type of things. So 100% of weatherization up to $1,600. That is all your, caulking, everything that you want to do around that stuff. And then 80% of your energy efficiency stuff. And that's based on modeled efficiency numbers. So if you had somebody come out to your house and said, hey, you put in a new window that would reduce your energy bill by $300, you can get X dollars off that. So these are really great. Again, still waiting on the state, so I hate to speak too early. But this is something that we're actively moving to try to assist in, because again, even though it doesn't come directly through us, we want to make sure that we get a mechanism in place that allows our customers the biggest ability to take advantage of it. Just like the speaker spoke of earlier. Well, how do I know? How do I know where to go to get the $1,600? I don't know. Do I just call Charlie from AB May, or do I? And so therefore, without me getting ahead of myself a little bit, I'll turn to the next slide, please.
But we have talked about working with our customers. Once we know where those vendors are, who's in the program, and then how do we message that communication to the public? I think the best we can do is update our community on here's where you go to get the dollars, and here's the dollars that are available. Okay, they're not coming to the utility, but all of our consumers don't know where to go, so we can certainly help direct them in that, towards where those vendors are, and then, how they can participate in the program.
So although we don't have a complete picture as to how the state will design the allocation of these funds, we are starting to work through the initial phases of a program to assist customers in how and where they can go to take advantage of these funds. The goal is really to work with vendors and providers to ensure that they can provide products and services that meet the thresholds established by the IRA program. So to ensure that direct point of sale rebate or a mechanism to ensure no or limited funds out of pocket. These funds have the ability to dwarf anything that we'll see in any other program going to the state level. And so really, this is such a substantial program that we want to make sure that, and Patrice's team has done this before on different energy efficiency programs and so forth. So it's really working with those vendors and providers to say, hey, I want to make sure that you have a list of $800 stoves that would fit within this program. So that therefore, if I need a stove, I can go get an induction stove or an electric stove that won't cost me a single penny out of pocket. Right there, you deliver it, Nebraska Furniture, whoever it is, right? And so making sure that our customers know that, hey, I can go here and I know they have a list of appliances that work within that, whether it be, the dryer, the stove, again, heat pumps, whatever these things are. So it's supposed to help both the, environment inside your home as well as the efficiency and weatherization within that home. And so hopefully overall that reduces your bill and again, speaks to the topic that is at hand here is lowering people's bill overall. So anyway, on that note, I'll take any questions anybody has.
So one of the questions I have is, on the previous slides, you don't have to move back. There was a note that, suggestion of capping it at 150,000. How did we come up with that number?
It's just a staff recommendation. Obviously, we'll be going through the budget, right? And so you guys will determine how you want to allocate funds for hardship, utility assistance, these type of programs. It's really that there's only so many funds that get to be distributed in any certain way. And however you guys determine all of those funds that are out there, whether it's sponsorship dollars or all these other programs, is how is the best mechanism to do what we do? And that's obviously why you guys are here to provide your insight in terms of what the community thinks is the best mechanism to use these funds. So that is a staff recommendation based off of what we know today. You guys will allocate funds however you see fit.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that, if the average utility user is water and electric, which I would imagine most are, the rebate would be $90 a year for a household, for both. And that's only 1,667 customers that would be able to be serviced by that. And I guess I'm gonna have to go back in my own head and think about this, because the idea that I was picturing is the fact that basically we're rebating a price that we've added to. So they're paying their regular utilities up into that 2.5% increase. So the rebate above and beyond is just above and beyond. So I don't think that 1,667 in my mind is the right number. I don't think that allows us to work with the number of accounts that probably are going to be very needy of that rebate at least until we can get some of these other mechanisms from the state in place where we can get them weatherization so that their bills come down. I mean, to me, the idea is that we have a subset of customers in our city that have the lowest income, so therefore they have the lowest number of dollars to be able to put into home improvements, to be able to lower their utility costs, which are higher than everybody else's on average, because they can't weatherize. So in the meantime, how do we keep them in their homes, by preventing the $7.50 a month from just being that tipping point until they can get something else in place to manage bringing their utility costs down. You know what I mean? So I know that that was a long conversation with myself, but I think that 150, I don't know that in my mind is a comparable number to be able to manage the at least the short term of the situation that we have in our city. So
and just as a reminder, the initial rate increase was about $5.93 additional.
Yeah.
The second one will be about $2.97. So
yeah, I know. That's why
Yep.
I'm looking at my hopes are that this refund or rebate program is not ongoing forever. We're putting this in place to try to help get over a hump until we can get IRA money in and start helping our most needy and vulnerable customers stabilize. That would be my hope.
Yeah, and really, hopefully with, you know, those homes and HERA funds that I discussed there at the end, being 100% point of sale rebates, those are the dollars that you can say, hey, I can actually weatherize without having to put any dollars out, right? So those are the challenges that you speak of is, hey, if I have to pay money out, then I'm not going to do it. And so therefore, if I don't have to put any money out, having vendors and providers that are willing to do that, that says, hey, I can do all of these things for the $1,600 and you don't have any out of pocket. Those are the big things that we're trying to get over on the IRA dollars. So
Exactly, because if we can take somebody who's struggling with a $400 a month utility bill and help them by weatherizing their house and bring their payment down to $300, that $750 a month was not the problem.
Right.
You know, that the solution is helping them manage, you know, their homes in a scenario where they don't have the free money to go out and do it themselves.
And that's a lot of times the issue, right? Is the weatherization of a lot of those properties isn't sufficient because you use so much for heating and cooling because so much of it sifts through.
Mhm.
And that's really where the issue is, right? Is that $7 doesn't do me anything because it's drafty, it's all these things. And so that's where that weatherization dollars and energy efficiency dollars hopefully can come into play.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Go ahead, David.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. This is really just incredibly helpful. So are there vendors or do we have a vendor referral? I mean, I know you were talking about working with vendors, but where would those be found who've already been connected? Because there are a lot of things that come up online and what have you, you know, you see different ones and we don't know if there's a Better Business Bureau, for lack of a better analogy, or someplace that, or how do we make recommendations? Can or do we?
So I will say that this is getting outside of my area of expertise. This is more Patrice Townsend's area. And she's done this in the past on different programs that we've worked with, I know of. And so to me it is finding those vendors that are willing to show their product and their services and know that they have the ability to take those IRA funds directly and those type of things. So at this point, one, obviously we don't know exactly what the state's plans are. So we're really kind of just slowly churning this process forward. But the idea is to get a list of all those who want to participate in this with BPU in terms of saying, hey, I want to be added to the list. I can do these things, or I'm a heat pump vendor. I'm a stove vendor, whatever it is saying, hey, I have products and services that meet that, and I want to be added to your list so that you can share this list with your consumers going forward. Again, I'm not the expert on this, so forgive me for that.
And this is only, I know the answer to this question, but I just didn't know if there was somewhere. I'm thinking of a couple small businesses who've been in business a long time who could really, weatherize, for example, but they don't have any access whatsoever under this program. It's purely residential.
It is purely residential.
Okay.
Purely residential.
Okay, all right, thanks.
In this presentation, program design would be intended to assist residential customers in taking advantage of a full allocation of eligible funds available. So that says to me that we are going to have somebody on staff, maybe supplement Patrice's staff, give her the adequate staffing that she needs, that we can actually go out and track this money and this funding and get the money to the people. Is that?
So we won't ever touch the money. The
We-
money will never touch us.
No.
So it'll go directly, effectively from the state to the vendor, hopefully, and never touch the consumer either, right? So, so our goal, I'll say today, again, we're kind of at the front side of all this because we wanted to present on the rebate program. But really, the idea is that, yes, there's going to be some staff time involved in this. So Patrice's group does this kind of stuff for a living. And so whether it is more cumbersome and there's more staff time required than they have the ability to do, or whether her team can handle it now. I don't know that, although you can see how big this program could be. in terms of the number of households. I mean, we're talking all 65,000 of our customers would in some way, shape or form be able to touch these rebates, whether even at the 50% level or the 100% level, everybody will be applicable for the most part for these funds. And so therefore you can see just how big this could be. And so therefore, as we work through these things and as the state starts releasing information at some point, hopefully soon, that we'll kind of see how these go. But yes, Patrice's team will likely manage most of that effort.
I've been a proponent of a consumer advocate for the BPU since COVID. And I think that, we need to, have somebody on our staff who is familiar with these programs and can get the people that need the money hooked up with the agencies that has the money. Whether, I don't think, we don't need to touch it, but we need to be able to not just say, "Oh, here's a list, go out here and do it," or here's it, we need to have somebody that can, actually provide assistance to these people to make sure that they get what they need and what they deserve. And it might be having somebody in the lobby too. There might be another person in your lobby. So that's all I've got. I just think that we need to have somebody advocating for the consumer. Make sure that that our people get what they need and that,
And these will become bigger talking points. I know a lot of you probably haven't seen a lot of this stuff, but it's because it hasn't rolled to the forefront yet. I do expect you to see HVAC vendors and various vendors start promoting these things. And we haven't got to that point yet because the state hasn't really got to that point. We're just kind of churning through that process to make sure that we're at the forefront of that when it does come, so that we can make sure that, again, these are funds that could actually materially change each of the households that these people live in. So.
Thank you. Andrew, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate the staff's work on looking at, these programs holistically. This board, I believe, Jeff was the very first one who spoke after the rate increase was approved and said, wait a minute, we got to do something to soften this blow to our most vulnerable residents. And we've done that. You guys are doing that, or we're trying. But it's not lost on me that, we currently spend, I believe, $225,000 a year out of this budget for utility assistance and hardship assistance. We're going to propose to spend another $150,000 out of the budget, potentially as a cap on this, new rebate program. So that's, $375,000 that we're looking to spend in a given year. It's not lost on me. We just increased rates. And this is coming out of a budget for, something's got to give here. And, we increased last year, this board allocated another $250,000 to utility assistance, hardship assistance for this year. I don't know where we sit, and I would not put you on the spot, Janetta. I don't know where we sit on if any of those funds are left, but if they're left, we need to communicate this to the community, at ASAP, if there are any funds left, because I'm looking at our economic development budget again, and I believe we have only allocated $60,000 out of that budget this year. There are $440,000 left in that budget, and I can assure you the end of this year will not go by if we don't see any other economic development requests. I will move again for that money to be reallocated to the same thing for next year. And maybe it goes to this new fund. Maybe it goes to these, I don't know where it's best used, right? You guys know where it's best used, but we keep doing this and David, I'm not going to go off on a tangent about, pushing the state to establish a utilities universal service fund, but I might go off on that tangent, right? I mean, we can't do it, but we have lobbyists in Topeka, and we are a utility that has, a very specific demographic in Wyandotte County. We just do. And if ever there's been a time for the state to do this thing, now is the time. Because we just keep shifting money around. I mean, I'm looking going, I was even thinking, I'm like, hey, why don't we have a rider? Utility, this is me proposing this for myself. I'm like, I would pay more for my usage to actually help, like to do a share the warmth, but we know we can't do the share the warmth program. We tried that. We don't do it very well or whatever, but I'd pay more for my usage to spread that around to other people in our, because that's exactly what we're doing with the budget anyway. Except that we're making the folks most vulnerable participate in that. And it doesn't make sense, right? So, really appreciate your work on this, really appreciate staff's work on this. We've got more work to do, some of which is not in our hands, some of which could be in our hands. But Jeff, I tend to agree with you. $150,000, 1,667 homes isn't enough. It's just not. So I guess more to come on that, but I know folks know we're trying. We're not, and you guys are doing a great job of trying to implement things on the fly, and we appreciate it. But hopefully we can come up with, in addition to these IRA direct to consumer programs, hopefully we can come up with something more from the utility side of things as well, that makes more sense for this community as well. Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
I didn't have a question.
So one thing that I would,
Hold on, Angela wanted to clarify something.
yeah, just one thing I'll report again. I did tell the board a few weeks ago, Sharice Davids, Representative Sharice Davids is in town. And she met with me, the CEO of Evergy, other business and civic community leaders across the metro. And her focus is the federal government has made these funds available to the state. And she wants to make sure that the state create the right process of getting it into the hands of all the communities. Okay. And she's asking questions. Okay. Based on what the Fed's done, based on what she still don't know what the state may do. How do I direct part of my conversation with the state to ensure that it gets to the communities and serve the communities in the best capacity possible? Because you guys are on the front lines here, and I need to hear back from you. So I heard that there is another meeting coming up, so I'm expecting another invitation to come up. We'll get back together. I have already communicated to her based on my previous knowledge that, and this was where Andrews helped me with some of the messaging to her was, this needs to be a point of sale type program for customers and vendors. So there's no out of pocket expense, because what I was reading earlier was this is going to come out in the form of having people take advantage of this through tax credits. Okay. And I just said, look, Representative, you certainly know our community. Okay. There's not enough people that can put money up front and then turn around and file their taxes and take advantage of a tax credit later. They're struggling already. So that's not going to work. And so the things that Andrew stated today on where this thing may be going will be my message back to her. And hopefully the state will not do something different with where the federal government is trying to, and how they're trying to direct funds to Wyandotte County and the other counties in the state of Kansas. So, but a lot of that's up to the state.
Okay, have a more thorough.
I'm looking at my senator.
Okay, have a more thorough review of what exactly has happened and been inspired to augment what you shared about the perhaps work short, but my next meeting for sure, without fail.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
And Angela wanted to clarify something.
I wanted to clarify with the Unified Government's new program, they realized that while they will take the applicants starting in January, people probably will not be able to qualify until second quarter. But when you qualify, then you will be qualified till the following June. Because of the, when to get the financial, your tax returns and back. So that's when, so even though it's going to kind of open first quarter, it probably it really won't take effect until second. But it will extend out then.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous comments, and I'll be brief. I did ask Patrice to reach out to all of the ambassadors for the Community Engagement Committee, and she is checking schedules, and she's asking if they would be available sometime over the next couple of weeks to meet. Response back from all of those, or a majority of them, is, yeah, we have time, and they're kind of giving some time when they would be available. And in her conversation to me is, Bill, I need to know what the board schedule is so that we can match that up against all the ambassadors. So if you can contact Patrice, contact me, copy me on it. We're trying to work together on
So for the community engagement committee, the board members of the, okay,
the people that are on that committee, and what schedules do you want to, how do you want that schedule to be for the next 2 weeks? And then, and if we can't agree to that, if you can give me some tentative schedules beyond the next 2 weeks, we'll make sure we get that back out, and then try to get everything lined up.
okay.
Okay, and
Thank you.
then finally, October 29th, David Haley will be celebrating another birthday, so happy birthday. That's all I got, Madam President.
Thanks, Bill. David?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the well wish, and thank you again for the excellent presentations that we had across the board. I don't really have anything that I would add, other than I will be doubling down to get some more information on what the state, the drag on not getting the Fed money for weatherization. Also, would like to ask for the bidding process, which has been opened to be, if not extended, at least available for our dormant properties, Quindaro and Caw, that the bid and the tour be made available. There are a couple of those who have wanted to participate, who go back as long as a decade with what to do with our Quindaro plan, especially in Caw, that have not made application, not been able to tour, and they reach back out. So I would hope that they would be able to participate, those that have expressed that interest before. And thank you again, Sister Therese. I continue to be an advocate for in-person, and I hope that the board will take judicial note of solid members of the community who are concerned about no access to the one-on-one available through the lobby, through some lobby interaction. Thank you.
If you can have whoever you have interested in the Caw or Quindaro properties to contact me directly, we'll see if we can somehow squeeze in a site visit for them. We've already had 2 visits set up. We've already completed those. The RFP has been out for a while. I know that there's dates lined up to move through that. But if you have somebody that maybe want to see it, I'll take a look and look at the schedule, and then we'll try to make a determination if we can make that happen.
And the RFP will have very specific information on who they should contact. I would ask that they not reach out to Bill directly, but follow the process in the RFP, and then they will direct it to Bill.
So some people have had difficulty accessing the RFP or the bid process online, and then call back and
They
circle
can-
back to me, and they haven't been able to.
I would refer
do
them to
that.
purchasing then, to the
Do the
purchasing.
purchasing.
Make sure they copy me so that I'm
Right.
part of that
But
conversation.
they should direct their questions and.
Angie, he's gonna contact purchasing. I want to make sure that it gets also.
Right, I heard that, but
So should David go directly to Becky?
yes. Or however it's, well, the Becky comment is in regards to how to get online.
Or
Cobbins is managing the list for us.
who is?
Misha Cobbins, M. Cobbins,
Okay,
you
okay.
will be having, so the visits, the tours we had today, there have already been requests for some more time. So there will be another
Okay.
visit probably sometime next week,
Is that to Quindaro or Caw or both?
both.
Okay.
Good.
All right, because
We've showed them twice.
okay.
And this time some additional information was asked. We can't do that for the process that Angie's defined. They have to submit for an addendum. We have to go out for another site visit.
And so is it bpu.com under purchasing? Because I tried to direct them to that, to the link
Demand
or what
Star.
have you.
If he contacts Misha,
Okay,
I've already seen information where somebody has requested information they couldn't get through
right,
to our site. She provided the directions
okay,
for them to download, so she can do that here too.
okay,
But, I would like to stick with our timeline and not just continuing to have people come in late because we're
Because they couldn't
communicating
get
that and
online.
advertising that as much as we can.
I
Okay.
just want to make sure we extend it to those who've expressed a long time
So
interest
we
as
are-
well, you know, and, yeah,
Okay, so if you can communicate that to him, contact Misha, give him my email address as well. I will make
Okay.
sure that I shepherd that and kind of make sure that I'm following along with it as well.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
When does that RFP close?
I'll send all that to the board, so.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
Mr. Groneman,
Thank you. Thank you,
Indeed.
Susan. Sister, thank you very much for appearing this evening and shining a light on some of the things, issues that we've all been struggling with and over the last numerous years. And hopefully we'll be able to, with your expert presentation that you made, look more carefully at some of those things and be able to resolve them and get things moving in the right direction. Also, Andrew, thank you for your presentation. Is very, very enlightening. So I hope we can get as much money out of the feds as we can for our people. And that's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Bryant.
David, happy upcoming birthday. And I would,
Not your birthday.
I would ask that you keep your ears open on the state side. They have the tendency to not send monies toward Wyandotte County like we feel is fair in previous and past endeavors. And I would hope that they look at these dollars as helping the most needy first. And I can't imagine that there's a lot of other areas in the state of Kansas that are more needy than our community. So thank you all for the presentations tonight. Give a lot for us to think about. So appreciate it.
Thank you. I said the bulk of my comments earlier, in response to not my questions of Andrew, but my comments to Andrew. I think that this undertaking we're taking with the customer service policies, we said it earlier in our policy committee meeting that, this particular set of documents is something that literally impacts our entire customer base. And, it is something that when I joined the board in 2020, the board had just done a review of it, and made some changes at that time. And when we spoke about this earlier tonight, Bill, you acknowledged, things have changed and things continue to evolve and change. And we as a utility have to evolve and change with it. And we have to be better for our customer base. I mean, we just do. And I think we can get there. And I appreciate all the staff's efforts on this so far. I know that this is, Jeff, you described this as an arduous process. It will be an arduous process. But I think that we've got folks on this board. I think everyone on the board is in agreement that we need to do some wholesale changes here that address the problems that Sister Drees, brought to our attention tonight. And again, she's not the only customer that has brought these, to our attention in public meetings, in phone calls and emails to the board members, to Bill, to the administrative staff, to customer service. So hopefully we can all come together and get a product out of this that once and for all makes BPU easier to do business with versus harder to do business with. And I'm hopeful that we'll get there. David, happy birthday. 39 again, I'm certain. So happy birthday in advance. And that's all I have this evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Jeff, move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Mylan. Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.